Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King 2, and today I'm back with part 6 of What If Naruto was a Uchiha that created his own village. Remember to get this one too. 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice. Yes, I indeed have 4 more channels. All the links will be down in the description. So go ahead and destroy that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this brand new episode. Start the intro. So the last part we left off. After Naruto annihilate the 10 Kumo ninjas and kidnap Yugito, the masked man appeared. This was not the first time they were meeting one another. However, this time was different because Naruto knew who was under the mask. Naruto made it clear that his eyes are much superior to his, and he knew that he was the one that placed Yagura under his control. And through Yagura's mind he was able to see behind that mask. The masked man was rather shocked to hear that. However, he did not deny or say anything about this. He said that names are meaningless. It doesn't matter what he called him. However, Naruto should know that the tail beasts belong to him, and going after them is a mistake that he was going to greatly regret as Naruto turned towards him. However, in the split second that it took, Obito was going to have Naruto phase right through him, but Naruto kick shattered the mask and snapped his neck to the side. Obito was only saved because of Zetsu's interference, as Naruto almost destroyed the entire bridge. Zetsu brought Obito back to the hideout, and he was temporarily paralyzed. His spine was fractured. It was really bad. Lucky for him, the Hoshirama cells and the White Zetsu clones would be able to heal him up, but it will take some time. Obito saw it in the split second that their faces met one another. The eyes that Naruto was using was the Mangekyou. Obito had no idea what ability he possessed, but he was somehow able to bypass his Kamui, which made absolutely no sense. For the time being though, there was nothing that he can do about it, but rest. Skipping towards Kumo, the Raikage was informed that C returned. However, the most frightening thing to hear was that C returned by himself. Now that was rather shocking. The Raikage quickly went to the hospital, but C was not in any condition to speak. He sent out a few guards to find out if there was any other people nearby, but there was none. When C finally came to, he told the Raikage everything. Despite the fact that they went after him, Naruto still wanted to speak to him on his terms. The Raikage realized that this child wasn't just cocky though. He did not fear him despite the might that he possessed as a leader of Kumo. The Raikage sent word back as he wanted to have this conversation, not to mention return his Jinchuriki because Naruto had captured the two tails. We then skipped to the village as Yugito finally woke up. As she was in a room, she tried to open the doors. However, she physically could not. She could not even access the power of the Nibi, as Naruto stepped inside rather calm and nonchalant. As he sat down, and started to speak with her. However, his words seemed so cryptic as he asked her what did she desire. But it was like he was not even looking at her. It was like he was talking to someone else, completely different. However, she answered his questions as best as she could, as he promised her that she would not be harmed, she would be accommodated for, and she would be left in peace until it was time to return back home. Then she realized he was speaking to her, but before, it was like he was speaking to someone completely different. But she couldn't understand this man. After everything they tried, he was still willing to give her back, especially who she was, and have a conversation with the Raikage. That was weird. We then skipped to Naruto having a conversation with Kaido and Hina about his next movement, about what he was going to do next. The both of them were worried about the Raikage throwing the next stone. However, Naruto confidently told them that if he does, he will personally kill the Raikage himself and wait for his next successor, and maybe then they could have a docile conversation. The two have put their trust in him so far, as they know that he would not allow what happened in the beginning to ever happen to them ever again, so they put their trust 100% in him. Mito spoke to Naruto afterwards. She was worried that her not returning back to Konoha was going to cause Konoha to retaliate and try to hurt this village and try to hurt Naruto. However, Naruto told her that was out of the question. No one here would ever abandon her. They would face the coming storm together. As one, he told her. That brought a smile to her face, but her worries were then dissipated by Naruto telling her that everything will be alright. She's always trusted him, so she would not hesitate to do so right now. Naruto left Itachi in charge as the council would be handling most things, but there was some issues that the civilians wanted to speak to the leader about, so Itachi would be the face head of that, as Naruto would be taking Urza along with him. Her mind was truly deadly for these things, as he had her draw up a contract that would be stated between him and the Raikage. Itachi had told her that this might be the time that they needed to, for her to speak to him to let her feelings known. However, she was still unsure about that because of her earlier worries that it might ruin their friendship and just cause problems. We then saw Naruto going over a few listing. There was a dozen different countries that Naruto was allied with. His friendship with Koyuki was going to build something great between them as she was creating airplanes. Yes, the land of spring now was the most technologically advanced country, and Naruto had invested in what they were doing, so his village would share in the profits as well. This will be a great boost for their economy and their growth, and for their aid from their smaller apply villages. The land of Fan, the leader there, wishes to speak to him. When he returns from his meeting, he will go and speak to her about their future partnership. At Konoha, Hiruzen believed that he could sort this whole problem out, as he would want to travel there himself to have a conversation with Naruto. He believed that it was for the best. However, unknown to Hiruzen, Danzo was plotting heavily behind the scenes. Danzo was pissed off that this minor country that just rise believed they had what it takes to beat back Konoha. Not to mention they were once a part of Konoha. They were supposed to bow toward the leadership that this village carried, and you would not settle for anything less. As Hiruzen's death was being plotted by Danzo, because the moment he fall, Danzo would take over the leadership as Hokage, because he was the only one that saw the future and what they had to do to stay a part of it. Nagato of the Akatsuki was informed about what was going on now, and he also wanted to make moves as well. As Naruto and Urza and their guards finally arrived into the belly of the beast, which was Kumo, as they were accompanied by C himself, who Naruto had a run-in with earlier. So yeah guys, basically let's left off, you guys can switch across the play, check it out yourself. So let's begin this new episode. We begin this new episode with Jiraiya. Jiraiya has been searching for Tsunade for some time now. However, there has been no luck so far. Hiruzen believed that him and Naruto could come to an understanding, but If years of experience had taught him something, is that he need to plot for the future just in case. So it was time that Tsunade returned back to the village, just in case the future did not turn, as he hoped. However, the Sanin was running down dead ends after dead ends. It didn't matter where he turned, it didn't matter where he go. It seems like he was no step closer in finding her, not in the slightest. However, he wasn't about to give up his search so soon. After all, a few of his contacts had yet to contact him with some information about her whereabouts. So with that, he made his way off. Meanwhile, that was going on. A meeting that would decide the fate of everything around them was currently taking place. Because if a war were to break out right now, all of the other great nations would no doubtedly be drawn into this war. There was no doubt about that. Given how unstable the relationships were at the moment, there were 2 guards in the left corner of the room and 2 over to the other side. There was 2 outside waiting there just to be a formal meeting. These were Naruto guards. As Naruto and Urza sat in 2 comfy chairs, there was a table between them. It wasn't that large, but it provided enough space for room. On the opposite side of the table was the Raikage. He was not alone, but it wasn't any security that lay behind him. It was Mabe. She was a lot more than just his secretary after all. She handled many of his important files and documents as well. And if they were going to come to a negotiation, she was needed for this. The Raikage had just stepped in the room, around 10 seconds ago, as he proceeded to sit down. The unharmed Yugito was handed over to the Raikage, without a fuss by Naruto's side. And here he was now. So let us get straight into business, shall we? After all, none of us are here to waste any time, the Raikage announced. Correct, said Naruto. I know that you're still a young man, the Raikage said. And there is much that you don't know about this world. But your village, the Uchiha nation, and your title as the Kino Kage, you claiming the Kage title, is not recognized by any of the great nations. That means your village is not recognized as a great nation, he said. So, I think you should refrain from calling yourself that before you are given proper authorization. The Raikage words were laced with so much disrespect on Naruto and on his nation as well. However, Naruto did not budge an inch as he looked towards the man, the Raikage, believing that he had the upper hand in this conversation. Is that so? Said Naruto. So let me ask you a question. Who was it that gave you the authorization for this village to become one of the great villages? What? The Raikage said. From what I know about the past, Konoha established itself as the first great nation. The first Hokage of the Hidden Leaf have a very favorable relationship with a man that possess a vast amount of wealth and own many lands. And in doing so, the daimyo name was popularized, while the village of the Hidden Leaf was created and it took heights, and then countless smaller villages within the eastern side towards the mountains started to join forces, and they grouped together, and then suddenly there was a land of lightning, and after a few years there was a Kumo. So my question I ask, who was it that gave your village authorization in order to become one of the great nations? The history of this village and my people is unknown to you, but know this, they were able to establish themselves as a great village so they could get a seat at the table where the first Hokage, the first Kishikage, the first Mizukage, the first Kazekage, and the first Raikage sat. And my nation was able to be recognized by all those power and equally understand that they were in the system. And so it has been for many years now. So a upstart like yourself cannot just rise and believe that you can take the title of a Kage. You still haven't answered my question. What was it? Was it wealth? Was it power? Was it friendship with your neighbors? Was it respect? Was it the quantity of your land? You still haven't answered the question I asked. So which one of those was it, said Naruto? Because I assure you that we are in all of these sections and more. After all, I respect you enough to have this meeting after your people tried to harm one of my allies. And I also return your Jinjulgi to you. My men are still dead, the Raikage said. Yes, but I did warn them to stand down. And when they did not listen, I retaliate. After all, I presume you would do the same if you find unknown people trespassing in your land. And even after you warned them countless times, they still decided to raise their arms against you. So on that subject, I have nothing more to say. But it seems like you're not going to give me a definite answer on what is it I desire to know. So, let me tell you why my village is recognized, despite what you or the other Kages believe. There is just one simple thing I can use to show you why my village is recognized. My village is currently allied with Kiri, one of the great nations. And if that is not the case, before that, I did not seek the recognition from the 4 great villages. The Raikage realized that he was leaving Kiri out of this. I have allies in multiple places all around the elemental nation. You villages might be large, but the only thing you rule with is numbers. In terms of goods, items, all sorts of things that keep this world running. All the other minor villages out there, they are the ones that supply us with those things. And I can assure you that my land is not shorted in many of the goods that the other nations need. And yet, we still seek friendship with countless others. So if you believe I need recognition to be seen as a Kino Kage, it is not your recognition I seek, it is theirs. And I've gained their recognition and trust over the years that has passed. However, I believe that we're straying from topic. We were never here to discuss my leadership or my title. Naruto turned towards Urza. She pulled out a file from the file book in front of her. She slided towards the Raikage. I believe that this agreement would be satisfiable for both our countries and will prevent any bad words or actions against each of us. The Raikage picked up the file on the table. He noticed something in the agreement. It is stated here that reprimandation will be paid for any guilty party that will attack the other without reasonable cause. So what about my fallen man, he said. Well, first of all, the reasonable cause was them attacking the nation that has not provoked them. The land of Wave is a neutral place that did not brought your village or your people any harm. And even if that was not qualified as a valid reason, I do not see your stamp on that. Or have we made the verbal agreement just yet? Naruto said rather calmly. The Raikage gritted his teeth as he continued to read over the agreement. That is when Urza spoke up. As you can see, everything is neutral for both parties to coexist without any future problems. She had been the one to write this up by herself. Naruto had told her that he had 100% faith in her, and his faith was correctly placed after all. Her contract was flawless. There was no way that anything could be pinned or anything could be used against either nation. So that was a good investment on their part. However, the Raikage set it down. And what if I refuse to sign this? He said. His question was pointed towards Naruto. Naruto calmly focused on the man. Nothing will happen, he said. After all, the paper is just a paper. to show that you agree with these terms. So if you don't sign it, we will simply go along our way and leave this place, never returning ever again. However, if you pull a stunt like what you did by going after my allies, I will be forced to retaliate. Retaliate, the Raikage said. My people, they've been attacked for no reason more than just existing, and they fear the possibility that they will be harmed once again. But I made them a vow, a promise, that I would not allow that to ever befall any of them ever again. And I don't intend to break that promise. Right now there is a chance for us to be civil, a chance for both of us to coexist, and this will allow us to do so. As long as we abide by these rules, we can all exist. Is that so? The Raikage said. Well, let me tell you how I see it. Even before your village rise, Konoha was taking majority of the missions because everyone believed that they were superior to all. So they were gaining a lot of the mission supplies. However, since your village has taken ground, and I believe it was a few years ago that you started, the mission quantity has been falling even further. Because you've gone and allied yourself with almost all of the smaller villages. A power move that none of the other 5 great nations can do because most of the other smaller villages have many grudge against us because of past fluctuation of wars near their location. But because of your hands being stain free, you were able to pull a move like that right under our nose. But I can see what will be the outcome. The moment you open your gates, the moment everything become public, the secret missions that has been going on, their numbers will increase dramatically. So why would I allow your village to come and take a piece of the pie when it is already so small? The Raikage said. You know, I don't understand you, said Naruto. I'm finding it hard to see a reason why you will turn this down. More so for your own greed. What? The Raikage said. For years now, Konoha has coexisted. They have stand as a neutral, powerful power after the Third Great Shinobi War. You say that the pie is small, and Konoha missions, qualities and quantities are probably increasing, yes. However, your action remain stable against them. However, you see something that has been here before, cowered down and pushed away by your village included. And now that it's getting back on its feet, you want to put it back down. You want to stop the growth and the rise in power that is the Uchiha nation. I came here civil. I came here to have a proper conversation, but now I see that I'm just wasting my time. So, the action is left up to you. I am done discussing this. We either coexist or we do not. The Raikage looked down smugly at Naruto. You have quite the guts to say something like that, especially when you're talking to the leader of a great nation. Naruto got out of his chair. Let's go, he said. As him and Urza started to walk, she looked towards him as Naruto remained calm. However, she could see it. One of Naruto's guards opened the door, but as he did, there were several Kumo ninjas outside, as they blocked out the other 2 guards from exiting as they stepped in the room. Now they govern the door. Did I say you could leave? The Raikage said, that smug look once again on his face. I told you from the beginning of this meeting that you cannot just begin and call yourself a Kage. The great nations, they don't respect you. I don't care what kind of deal you have with Kiri, I don't care what is going on there. Because this is Kumo. You expect me to believe that the past aggression that has been placed on the Uzumaki village, that they will just forgive and forget? Kira is a fool, letting you ingrain in their society. Huh. I doubt that there won't be a moment of you backstabbing each and every one of them and getting your revenge. And I will not allow you to do that to me and my people. So let me make this straight. There will be no Uchiha village. There will be no Kino Kage. If your people freely give themselves up, there will be no retaliation from us, but they will have to join our ranks. And your lands will now be ours, he said. Naruto was quiet throughout this whole big speech from the Raikage. However, something surprising happened. He started to laugh. A full-blown laugh. Ursa immediately got scared. It made her remember something in the past. There was so much bloodshed. Naruto had this side of him that was different from most. He was a splendid leader, loving and caring to those who were close to him, but Ursa was sure that she was the only one that saw that side of him. The side of him that embodied his father and Madara Uchiha. A side that was so ruthless, a side that was so unforgiving. It was just after they had become friends and looking forward for the growth of their new village. There was a Uchiha that was kidnapped. A young girl. Her name was Inoki. Inoki was kidnapped by a group while she was on a mission. The force that they possessed weren't enough to get her back, so they had sent word. She and Naruto were having a meeting at the time, and she had accompanied him. When he had found out, these guys wanted to use her as a ransom chip in order to gain money from the famous Uchiha clan. There was over 4 dozens of them. Naruto had went in civil to make a deal for her safe release. However, one of them was a bit too cocky, and he slashed her on the cheek with a knife. Naruto's whole demeanor had changed. His whole body had seemed to just switch into something unrecognizable. What followed was a massacre. It was bloody, and now his demeanor had changed, but he was laughing. His laugh sounded humorful, but there was something about it. The Kumo elite guards felt it as well. The Raikage, years of experience, told him that something was about to happen as Mobi stepped back. There was a secret entrance out of here. And she knew where it was. The Raikage knew where it was as well. Naruto finally stopped laughing as his gaze turned towards the Raikage. His eyes were still deactivated. "Is that all your demands?" he said. "Not just quite," the Raikage said. "This all begins with your death." "Now," he said. The guards left the room. They closed it shut as they activate the seal. The Raikage and Mobi flew through the exits, the secret exits. After all, they had come into his village, his place. The Raikage wouldn't allow this to happen near his village. It took them 5 minutes to reach their destination, 5 minutes of walking. The Raikage had gotten the secret entrance that led to a bunker outside the village that he had set up perfectly as their final resting place. Naruto guards heard it as they looked towards the door, when suddenly, boom! A violent explosion rocked the underground bunker. Everything that was there would have been vaporized in the collision. The Raikage was outside, Mobi a few feet behind him. This was not in his village. It was in one of the great mountains. The mountain top collapsed down on itself as the thing came dropping down. The Raikage figured that he would get the leader out of the way first. He was their main source of strength. He was probably their most powerful Uchiha. So he had to die first. Once he fell, it would be much easier to conquer that village. After all, he already had his people readying themselves to go and conquer the village. It would come as a surprise for all the residents there. And with all of their bloodline and their Uzumaki vitality in his village, his strength would grow exponentially. This was never about signing any agreement. This was his plan to kill this man and rule his village and his people, and now there was nothing stopping him from doing so. However, there was a violent burst. Dust and smoke was sent sailing away. The Raikage was shocked when he saw Naruto calmly standing there, his arms folded. Beside him was Erza. Around him was all of his men. They were completely fine. Naruto turned towards Erza. "Prepare the teleportation," he said. As he stepped forward as his guards moved, "No. All of you remain where you are. I brought you into this as your trusted leader. I will hold them until it is finished," he said to Erza. Erza looked towards the two Uzumakis that was a part of the guard group. "He'll be fine. Let's begin," she said. Erza did not doubt Naruto's strength, despite the Raikage was there, and his guards that were now re-emerging and flocking to his side. Mobi rushed back to the village after words from the Raikage. That is when the Raikage raised his hand as he made a single gesture. All of his men flew forward at tremendous speed as Naruto's eyes were closed until they snapped open. He blurred away. The first one swung as Naruto took his arm clean off. The man was shocked by the speed. He didn't feel it until he saw his own arm in mid-air. However, the most frightening thing about it was Naruto did not have any blade on him. The blade that he used belonged to the victim that he just removed his arm. Naruto slammed his heel in the man's face, sending him sailing. Two others flashed through Hansan as they rained a twisting dragon made from lightning towards Naruto. The speed was ridiculous. However, Naruto matched their lightning with fire. He breathed out a massive dragon from just two hand signs. The ninjas burst from up ahead. They twist as they came down. The moment their feet touch the ground, they pull their blades and swipe. Naruto evade and twist and dodge. He grabbed one of their wrists as he pushed it to the side. The other one swung his blade toward his throat. Naruto slapped it upwards. He then slammed his elbow right into one of their nose before he jumped and slammed his leg into the other one's face, snapping his head to the side. Naruto then grabbed the guy's shoulder and flipped as he used it to stomp in the other one's face. As Naruto was falling, he stepped with force and flipped over before he exhaled a supernova worth of flames. The screams of the dying could be heard. The Raikage had enough as he burst through the flames covered in lightning, his fist inches away to take Naruto's head clean off. However, Naruto tilted his head, his Sharingan eyes looking towards the fist. The Raikage turned as he stomped his foot in the ground and swung. The force was tremendous. However, Naruto dodged once again as he placed the hand on the ground and slammed his leg into the Raikage's stomach. Naruto's leg was coated in wind chakra, breaking through the lightning like a knife through a butter. The Raikage was suspended in mid-air for just a fraction of a second. As he was gone, Naruto spun around and blocked his attack. The Raikage was baffled that he was able to predict and move at the speed to block him. Naruto stomped his heel into the earth as he gripped the man's hand. Once again, the Raikage was shocked by the way he was able to utilize wind nature to keep himself safe. However, the man wasn't a Kage for nothing. He gripped Naruto's wrists and intensified the lightning around him. He then pushed off as he was about to slam Naruto right in the mountainside. However, the moment the collision happened, there was a terrible force. The Raikage was blasted away. He slammed into a mountain hard as Naruto was covered in smoke. However, his back did not hit the mountainside, so where did the smoke come from? The Raikage pulled himself up, confusion written all over his face. He couldn't understand what just happened. As he looked at his hand, his lightning cloak was used against him, but that was not possible. The boy was somehow able to use his own cloak. That is what destroyed the wall, not his back being slammed into it. He used his own cloak. He somehow removed the cloak. The cloak flickered back around the Raikage as he was confused, having no idea what just happened a moment ago. The boy should have been smashed in the wall with all of his might, and yet he was the one that was sent away. Naruto then slammed his hand together. "Wood style," he said. The Raikage eyes narrowed. Deep forest emerging. A massive, colossal forest was created. The Raikage had to move with super speed. He heard his man screaming as he flew back down and used his arm to cut right through the gigantic vines. He tried to save his man, but they were pulled underneath the ground, swallowed. The Raikage covered himself with full force, 100% as he tore through countless vines. However, as he was about to tear through another, the vine moved as Naruto appeared. The Raikage was aiming to split Naruto in half. His body was covered in lightning. There was no possible way that he would be the one coming out of this harmed. However, Naruto's head was hanging down low as the both of them collided. What followed was a shocking revelation to the Raikage. He was blasted like a cannonball. He was launched as he slammed across the solid ground before he dropped right into the vines. They started to wrap around his body. However, kunais were thrown with explosive tags, causing them to shift as more Kumo ninjas arrived. Several of them jumped down as they sliced and tore through the vines, one of them getting caught in the process as he was yanked away. The Raikage was safe though. The man was surprised as something was dripping to the ground. He reached up and touched the top of his eyebrow. There was blood. So much blood as it started to run down his face. There Naruto stood on top of one of his vines, his gaze looking towards the Raikage. The Raikage had no idea what was going on. How did he do that? "Ashamed," said Naruto. "I intended to remove your eye. You're a lot faster than I thought." The Raikage clenched his fists when Naruto's name was called. "It seems our time is up." All of this happened in under 1 minute, yes. A minute had not passed. The both of them going at the speed that they were going at. Time was much slower than one would think. After all, Mabi had left some time ago before the fight began, so you can see that all of this happened shortly. However, the formula was finally finished. Using it on so much people across the vast distance was more difficult, but it was done. Naruto was gone as the Raikage was racing towards his destination. As Naruto stood in the circle, that is when massive blue flames started to rain from the heavens. The Raikage leaped out of the way as two of his ninjas leaped from beside him as well. They landed when they saw Yugito. She slashed him across the throat, tearing their throat clean open. As she jumped away to Naruto's side, the Raikage was baffled as Yugito looked towards Naruto, her eyes resembling his. Flashback. What do you desire? Yugito was confused why was he asking her that. However, as stated before, he seemed like he was not talking to her when she was locked away in that room. Because he was not. Naruto was inside of her mind. Inside of the seal where the tail beast was located. Unlike the 8 tails, Yugito did not form a deep connection with her tail beast. She could access the power because she was able to dominate it and because the 2 tails didn't want to fight. She didn't want to fight, yes. She was more relaxed than many of her other counterparts. What she wanted was freedom, to be together again with her family. Those days were the good old days, when everything was alright, peaceful. Yet as she looked at this human in front of her, he reminded her of her father. She could feel the balance inside of him. As Naruto gazed into her eyes, showing her what he had to offer, she took him up on his bargain. Naruto had planted the seed of control in Yugito's mind without her knowledge. So yes, Naruto would have used her to wreck the village from the inside, but that was not what he desired. He didn't wish to kill them all. The Raikage was his main target. However, if the Raikage's successor chose to bring violence after his death, well, fine then. And also, he made a promise to the 2 tails as well, Nibi, that he would not use her for war. So yes, Yugito was now with them, well, not by her own means. Yugito, the Raikage yelled. As we skip back to the present time, he was furious. You believe I came into this ill-prepared, not ready for your betrayal, but you were wrong. I know the kind of man you are. I gave you a chance, I gave you a out, but yet, you still choose to retaliate. Fine then. If you want to die, you will die, said Naruto. The next time we meet, your life will come to an end. Until then, said Naruto. With that, the Raikage sped forward at blinding speed, but the group was gone in a flash. As the Raikage passed through, nothing was there. The man slammed his fist into a boulder, turning it into thousands of pieces. He was pissed off, furiously so. Time skip. A vast distance away, the same teleportation symbol that they used earlier activated as the group arrived, in one piece. Erza sighed. It seems our hope for a better future is not there just yet, she said, as Naruto let off the guards. As both him and Erza started to walk, approaching the village by the secret entrance. I presume this much. There was a high chance that he would never take me up on my offer. I thought he would at least be civil about it and wait. However, I guess you can't predict everyone. Or can you, said Erza. You had everything prepared, just in case of the betrayal, but not only that. You were holding back out there. If you had taken the fight seriously, there is no doubt in my mind that you would have won. So why, she said. His successor, said Naruto. As he glanced towards her, her mind started to work fast. I see, she said. You want this to happen. Because you know if you kill him right now, his successor will simply drive the attack even harder than he was. Because he would be mandated to do so. However, if you have him gather his forces and you best him on the battlefield and end this before it gets too much, they will have to rest and see the error of their ways and believe they would need to find a suitable leader to rule that would not cause them any more bloodshed. You see, said Naruto, I told you. Your mind, work as fast as mine, he said to her with a smile. That made her happy on the inside, but She remained professional. But still, this is not good, she said to him. I know, said Naruto. And there is no doubt in my mind that he will try to get the Tishikage involved. And Konoha, they're another problem as well. However, I promise you and your people, I promise my people as well, before we united into one, that I will not allow them to be hunted and attacked and killed anymore. So I will make sure that their future is safe. It doesn't matter what it costs me, he said. She started to feel worried as he said that. He saw the look on her face. He was about to open his mouth, but she beat him to it. I don't want you to die, she said, gazing at him. Naruto placed both of his hands on her shoulder. Life is uncertain in this day and age, he said. However, I promise you, I won't leave you, he said to her. But you just said, I said I will give up everything, and I mean it. But that doesn't mean I have to die, he said. She looked at him strangely. Sometimes his word could be even more cryptic for her, as he simply smiled at her. It's alright. You've always put your faith in me. So do it again, he said, and just trust me, alright? She nodded towards him as she saw a happy smile on his face. You know, I was beginning to think that you hated me for some reason after our trip with the rebellion forces. What? I could never hate you, she said. Huh, I guess my mind was just thinking too much, he said to her. Despite how awful this trip was in terms of finding a peaceful solution, I'm glad that we were able to spend that peaceful way over there, he said to her. Yeah, me too. This was one of the reasons why she had feelings for him. He could be so considerate, so sweet, but she didn't know how he mean by those things. He say these things, and yet she saw him with Mei Terumi. So she doesn't know if he saw her just as a friend or what. She just don't know. As they made their way, time skip. Danzo was able to get word. He had spies all over, except for in that damn new village, Uchiha. But he had spies everywhere else though. So he was able to find out that the altercation between Naruto Uchiha and the Raikage did not go peaceful at all. That meant a war will be starting very soon. And knowing the Raikage, he will try to dominate Uchiha completely, to crush it with a firm hand. This changes everything, as Danzo had another plan, where Konoha will emerge on top. Things were playing a little bit in his favor right now. However, there is a few things that he needed to do to ensure that they go his way perfectly. That brought a smile to his old crooked face. Time skip. She was free. After so long, being sealed into vessels after vessels, being sealed into a pot, she was finally free. She was able to reunite with two of her siblings already, Kurama and Isobe. Isobe was always the younger one of all of them, as they treated him like the younger kid. He's been through much, so she was glad that he wouldn't be used anymore. Kurama was like the grumpy, older uncle, sometimes just pissed off for no reason, and sometimes he could be good to them. She looked down towards a human that made all of this possible. Most humans would go back on their word because they lust for power, but not you. Despite now that me being here, there is a war about to break out. I made you a promise, said Naruto, and I keep my words. You will not have to fight. The place is large and vast. You can live. and not worrying about being hunted or targeted anymore. I promise. What I said I was going to give you. Your freedom. She looked down back towards him as she looked behind her, towards a vast location. I'll be watching you, Naruto Uchiha, she said. As she took off, so she could bask in her freedom. Moments later, Naruto was seated. Hina and Kaido was in front of him. It seems, even just coexisting together is a true problem for them, Hina said. Yes, it seems that way, said Naruto. I have my people watching him. He is very quiet. But he is making his move though. But not after us for the time being. Given how calm you are, I presume that you have all of this under control and ready if the necessary measures are turned towards this village. I made you all a promise some time ago, and I will stand by that promise till the day I die. So, let us speak to the others, said Naruto, as the three of them made their way towards the council room. There were several different powers here as well. Hina and Kaido were the official elders of the village. Naruto was a leader, but there were several powers that governed several different areas of the village. As they proceeded to go to the meeting, hours later, we find Naruto heading towards a house. As he arrived at said house, Naruto was patiently waiting at the gate until the gate opened up by itself as he stepped inside. That is where he saw a man with gloves on his hand. As he took them off, he had short, silver hair, not because of age though. However, he was in his late 40s. As he smiled over towards Naruto, Naruto-sama, he said with a smile. The both of them shake hands. Come on now, Ichigo, said Naruto. You don't have to address me as that. When you're alone, he said. I guess I just got used to it, he said. Old habits are hard to break after all, he said with a smile. As Naruto smiled back as he looked towards the garden. These were not normal plants. This man in front of him was a herbalist. He specialized in plants. Plants that could heal the body. He was the best in the elemental nation. Naruto has never come across anyone else that knows so much about plants. He met Ichigo some years ago. He was actually a part of the first group that he invited to join the village that was not a Uzumaki or was a Uchiha. Ichigo had helped him out a lot when times got hard in terms of leadership. The man was one of his good friends. That is when Naruto heard something as two kids came rushing out. Uncle Naruto, they said. The both of them leaped. They crashed right into Naruto. Naruto stood firm though as one of them hang on to his hand like a monkey, the other one crawling up and landing on his shoulder. As the both of them were laughing and smiling, they had their father eyes but their mother golden hair. The boys were infernal twins, so they were not identical. But given that they had the exact same hair color and eye color, it would seem that way, but they were not. The one on the right, his name was Nuwaki. And the one on the left, his name was Menma. He was named after his grandfather. Now boys, what have I told you about jumping on people? The both of them looked towards him. Sorry, Dad, they said. The both of them were 3 years old, going on to 4. They were pretty smart kids. Naruto patted them on the head. It's okay, he said, as he brought out 2 candy bars and handed to each. The both of them looked at him. Their parents wouldn't let them eat so much sweets, so they loved their Uncle Naruto. That's my secret gift to you both, Naruto said, as he stood in front of them so their father wouldn't see. The kid's face lighted up. That is when a voice spoke up. What have I told you about feeding them chocolates? As Naruto Sweat drop. She came out of nowhere, and you're just standing there. You know that would ruin their appetite. Sorry, honey. I didn't see. Ichigo said. She sent him a minor glare. You're just like him. You spoil them too much. As Ichigo scratched the back of his head. He could be a bit lenient with the kids. Alright, you two. Go put those chocolate bars up. You're not gonna eat them tonight. But Mom, they whine. She gave them another look. Now listen to your mom now, Ichigo said. The both of them pouted as they ran off. Finally, not making me look like the bad guy is a rare once-in-a-time thing for you, isn't it? She said towards Ichigo. Well, I did join in. After I scolded them, she said, as Naruto started to giggle to himself. Is this funny to you, she said. You're the one that started all of this. Oh, no, he said. It's just something I'm remembering, he said to her. Yeah, I bet that is the case, she said, as Naruto fully looked towards the woman. This was no ordinary woman. She was Tsunade Senju. Yes, after all Jiraiya's search, she was here. As Naruto cleared his throat. I need to speak to you, he said. She see that he was serious. As she walked, caused him to walk. The both of them made their way towards the living room. As she sat down. You sent Shizune again to the meeting as your proxy, said Naruto. Yep, those meetings always bore me, she said to him. You know most of the meetings are for the betterment of the village, right? Shizune can handle it, she said, waving Naruto off. As Naruto sighed. Alright, fine, he said. I'll let you get away this time. Tuh. So, what do you want to talk about, she asked him. It's Jiraiya. He's looking for you. And this time he seemed like he's not gonna stop anytime soon until he does find you. And if he does not, he's going to return back home with the notion that you're probably dead. Tsunade leaned back in her chair. It was 7 years ago now, when Naruto had first came across her. Their meeting was one that she did not like. It ended with a battle between them. But he did not leave. He kept on following her. Again and again and again until he finally wore her down. Well, more like annoy her down. Keep on claiming that she had family. After all, Naruto and her were connected by the Senju name. And his mother was a cousin to hers. Not a first cousin, but still a cousin. And not to mention she was named as Mito's godmother. So yes, Mito was pleasantly happy to see her. This village did not bring her sadness. Instead, it brought her something that she was searching for. Happiness, warmth. As she saw all the Uzumakis, even the Uchihas, she never thought Uchihas would be happy to see someone like her. She was rather shocked. It was soon after, when she said that she would just stay for the drinks. After all, they were just an up-and-coming village. They were still not anywhere close to becoming what they are now. She met Ichigo. He heard about her work. He heard about the things that she has done. And he wanted to float some ideas by her. At first, she simply ignored him. But out of nowhere, she agreed to check out his plants. He was able to do the impossible. Many of those herbs desire certain situations, certain ground and sand leverage in order to grow. But he used a special soil that he created. Let's just say that she was impressed. She spent a lot of time with him. And for the first time in a long, long while, they slept together after a well-hammered night. But the next morning, she wanted to see him again. She wanted to see him again, so she did. And she did. Till weeks passed by, months. And then years. And they became a thing before she even knew it. And she discovered that she was pregnant. She was rather shocked, given her age, despite her technique making her look young. It was a true miracle. However, he wanted to marry her after finding out. She scoffed right in his face, believing that he was just doing this because of their soon approaching children, but he had the whole thing planned out already. He even had the ring. She felt something for someone that she had not felt since she's been with Dan. For the longest time now, Konoha believed that she was out there. But she has been here, with her new family, her new home. And now things were changing. She knew that the moment this village was put on the map, the others would retaliate. However, she had an idea how they could handle Konoha. She doubted that Sensei really wanted to go to war. However, there were some that could be tempted. So yes, she had an idea. And she would be attending that meeting. So yes, for the longest time she would be showing her face that she was no longer with their village. That was going to lead to a lot of backlash, but she also had the idea for that. As she looked towards Naruto. "I'm ready," she said. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see the next part, and do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification say posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace, guys.